I am Jason Abraham, the Shadow Teacher 33, and on my journey, journey of awakening the great potential within, I've shared quite a bit about the process of shadow work, hence the name of this channel, the process of healing trauma. And on the flip side, I've also shared about the power of affirmations and creating a new identity and stepping in courageously to a new identity. But what I've found is that the stronger you get, the greater your resolve. When you start believing on a heartfelt level on this new direction you're stepping into, you are going to be tested. The trauma that has shaped who you were is not going to want to let go of you. It wants you to stay in an old identity and an old pattern of thought and behavior. And I've said before, thoughts by themselves are not that powerful. Thought coupled with emotion, that starts to become more powerful. But then when you have thought, emotion, and action, then you start to take shape with something in this realm that we call reality. And Dan Millman, who wrote, what was his big, The Peaceful Warrior, that was his big book, written several books, but one of his themes, he was the one who brought this idea to my attention, which is that we can't really control our emotions, nor can we control our thoughts. We can only control our actions. Now, I actually have some experience now. When one practices magic, you actually do build thought control and emotion control. That's one of the higher practices. But generally speaking, most people are not going to be able to control their thoughts nor their emotions. In fact, this is how systems of dominance are able to control people and guilting people for what they feel and what they think. But it is ultimately how you act that starts to take shape in the world. And when we have trauma that's in our body, this trauma has a story. It has a basic story behind us. And we can experience different events in our life that trigger this trauma story, that trigger this thought loop of going back to this trauma. And we start to get into this very repetitive thought that's not serving us, that's really serving us to stay in this traumatized state, which is usually associated with identifying as a victim in some way. And the past couple of weeks, I've had this show up in my life. I had these feelings. I had these events that were triggering this old story. And the past version of me would act on that story, would start to show up and start acting in the world as if this trauma story was true, and this was my fate, this is my identity, and I had to fight the world as this loner because I'm getting screwed over by someone out there. And then what I would end up doing would be perpetuating the story, that it actually showing up. But this time I did something different. This time I was able to feel the emotions and think the thoughts, but instead of engaging with other people from a basis of these thoughts, I was able to shift and do something else. I was able to write a different story through my actions that confirmed the identity that I'm stepping into, as opposed to the old identity that's governed by the trauma story. And again, it's not that I didn't have that come up in me. It's not that I didn't feel it. It's not that I didn't think the thoughts. simply took a different choice of action this time. And in doing so, I got a different result. And that's sort of the way this stuff works. Kind of going into the quantum realm is that the observer and the object are not separate. So when you are thinking, or an identity is wanting to take shape in you, or you want to identify with something, you find evidence for why you're going to believe that. And that old trauma, again, wanted to produce more evidence of that being my fate. But by choosing a different course of action, I created some new evidence. And now the evidence that I created is more congruent with the identity I am stepping into. So if you are experiencing the same thing, if you're experiencing old stories coming up, know if you're doing your work, it is your actions that are ultimately going to matter. How you engage with other human beings, how you engage with the world, how you act is what's going to take shape. And even if you feel something, even if you are in great pain from an old belief, doesn't necessarily have to be your fate. If you choose a different action, a different course of action will create a different timeline for you if you can create that space. And I think again about the old martial arts story of the samurai where someone's dying and this person spits on him and he's angry. He wants to kill the guy, but he walks away. Then comes back the other day and kills the guy. And someone asks, "Why did you wait a day to kill him?" He said, "Well, the first time I was angry. I wanted to be clear on my decision, and I didn't want to be controlled by the anger." So, same energy, same concept applies to trauma stories, to trauma language, is that when we feel it, it wells up, we are in greatest danger acting in that moment. So having some space, being clear on what you want to do, what you want to step into, understanding that you are a creator. Every action, every choice you make is creating a ripple effect in the universe. And being very conscious of what you want to create. And ultimately then taking a different course of action creates the formation of a new identity. So I'm going to end this transmission. Be strong, be well, my friends, and I will see you on the other side.